Hi guys, just wanted to take you through my last resort pack today. Last resort bug out bag, grab bag, whatever you want to call it. It's a Viper version of the, I believe, Maxpedition originally came up with this sort of main compartment front and two small side compartments with the molly attachments on the back. There's loads and loads of cheap imitations. I went for the Viper one as a sort of middle of the road, so we'll flip the camera over and I'll show you what's inside. Right then, so on the outside, just taking you around it, I've modified the zip pulls because A, they rattled, and B, they look like they're about to come off, so I've done some sort of paracord zip pulls on there. I also strapped to the outside the Laplander, because although it's not particularly compact for a compact bag like this, it is the best tool for the job, so I do like to carry that. It's got a shoulder strap, so if you had to walk a longer distance, it's a bit more comfortable than carrying it around by the handle. On the outside I've got a little mag light so that in the dark I can view the contents of, well, most of the pockets without having to detach it, and that just sits quite nicely in this little slot. Although the mag light itself I'm not particularly impressed with. I've already had to clean the inside because of corrosion, and it's not particularly bright, so that's due an upgrade. Start with this front pouch. I very occasionally suffer from asthma, so that's just a little backup for me. Front pouch is basically the first aid, medical and emergency section, so we've got a seatbelt cutter. I keep this in the car most of the time, so if I come across an accident, that's there. Got a shell dressing in a waterproof pack, go on any major wounds. This needs a bit of updating, but this is just a little leather case that I've assembled a first aid kit in. So we've got some steri strips there, a little eye wash, bandage, some TCP, various wipes, various plasters, a bit of felt, a few tampons and bits of cotton wool for wounds, also used as tinder if necessary, and for applying the TCP, and then some larger plasters in this main pocket at the back. So I'll put that aside. Moving around to this side, this is basic food rations. I've got a little pot of salmon paste, quite a lot of calories in one pot. Yes, I know it's glass and it's heavy, but it's sealed and it lasts for a good 3 years shelf life, and you get good amount of fat and protein from that. Speaking of protein and fat, got some pumpkin seeds which were reduced. They'll last forever really. Eventually, you know, I could do with replacing those, but in an emergency you're not going to be too fussy. And then I've got a little brew kit, so we've got sugar, coffee, tea bags, hot chocolate, and a couple of cup of soups in there. So that's the food compartment. Around the other side we've got shelter and navigation really. I've got one of these Sol emergency bivvies, So that's foil reflective, waterproof, quite tough and very light and thin. Basically folds out to the size of a sleeping bag, and you can stuff it with leaf litter if you need some extra insulation. I've got a full-size compass because I don't like to compromise on that. Proper silver military compass with just a protective sheath there, and in tandem with that, making notes of where we are, I've just got a little memo pad which I've cut down, and a pencil. That needs upgrading to I'm going to get a waterproof one. That's in there as well. And then we've got a couple of face masks. These are good for if there happens to be an infectious disease doing the rounds, or if you are in a situation where a building's collapsed, 9/11 being a perfect example, and you don't want to get dust in your mouth. You've got one for yourself and one to hand out to a significant other if necessary. And that's that for all the side pockets. So we'll move on to the main pocket now. Just get all this out of the way. In the very top here, I've squeezed a Mountain House macaroni cheese, because quite simply, if you're needing food fast, apart from the hot cans that you can get which warm themselves up, these are about as fast as it gets. You just boil the water, pour it in, let it rehydrate, reheat, and then you're good to go. And they normally tell you how many calories. This is slightly different packaging, but they're usually somewhere between 400 and 600 calories. In terms of finding water, we've got a Webtex Survivor straw. Quite simply open it up, poke it in some dirty water, and off you go. It even filters out some chemicals. We've got a couple of light sticks, just in case the brilliant mag light fails. I've got a basic Chinese folding knife. Again, that's something I want to upgrade. I've upgraded the hinge already and given it a pull ring, but it's not the best quality, so I'll be upgrading that. Also, I've got a very stylish Ferro Rod here, made by my good friend Kilo. He's got an excellent set of videos on his channel, which is November Kilo 113. Go check him out. It's very varied content on there. Everything from sort of prepping philosophy to bushcraft to kit, and he actually makes these. They're really well made. He even does them in a 50 cal bullet, so the bullet's that big, and the ferro rod's about sort of 15 mil thick. Epoxied in, as well as a pressurized friction fit, and then he also puts a brass pin through, and the workmanship is so good you can barely see the brass pin, just a slight dent there. So yeah, that's my fire making first port of call. Now, of course, in an emergency situation, fire is pretty damn important. So I've got this fire kit in a tin, held together with a Ranger band, which again you can use to light a fire, and it'll even light when wet. And in there I've pretty much got every fire making method going. We've got char cloth, we've got tinder card, the various chemicals that you can mix, if I come across a 9-volt battery, this wire wool can be used to short the wire battery out and create enough heat to light some tinder, such as this jute twine. We've got matches. They're NATO ones, they're probably no good, so I'll replace them. I've got a little piece of magnesium, more chemicals, a backup striker. I might get rid of that because I won't need a backup with Kilo's brilliant bullet ferro rod, a couple of hexamine cubes, and you'll see where I use those in a minute, a little candle, and then of course the tin has uses of its own. So I'll just move that aside and we'll talk about the hexamine. In here, as a means of storing other things, I've got just a standard soup can, within which is one of those sort of pill box vitamin boxes, and it fits perfectly inside. And what that means is you've got a cup, a waterproof storage container, and a pot for boiling water and even cooking food if necessary. To cook on, apart from an open fire, I've made this little set. That's just a foam case, and then we've got 3 bits of galvanized steel which slot together like so. The hexamine or esbit cube goes on there, and your pot goes on top. So in an emergency situation, using that and some water, which I've usually got about my person throughout the day, or I can source with the water straw, boil up some water, stick it straight in the mountain house, and that'll keep me nicely fed for 24 hours at least. You know, if you're surviving a full meal like that, is enough to keep you going. So we'll pop that over there. What else have we got in here? We've got some rubble bags. Many uses. Stuff them with leaf litter and make a pillow. Carry stuff. You might be able to use them for a sucking chest wound in an absolute emergency. You can make a sling out of them. There's plenty you can do with them. I've got a card with some electrical tape and gaffer tape wound around for slimness. DC4 sharpening stone, diamond side, ceramic side, standard bit of kit for keeping your knife sharp. I'll keep a mini scope in here because it's quite small, and if I'm trying to get somewhere or trying to escape from somewhere or trying to suss out what's going on, I'm going to want to have a look and you know, see what's going on slightly further away. Give me a heads up before I decide to go in one direction or another. I'm not going to open this because they'll fly everywhere, but basically this is stuffed full of water purification tablets. So again, I've got a second means of purifying water in addition to the survivor straw and the simple act of boiling things, to give a bit of rigidity to the bottom of the bag, and also as a means of cooking food or carrying fire, or embers I should say. I've got one of these little barbecue foil trays. Costs me nothing, and that could come in useful. Also got a little hank of cordage. I'm going to replace this with some proper paracord, of which I've got loads, but I haven't got around to making this lovely little hank to fit in there yet, so that's going to be upgraded. So then all we've got left that we haven't looked at, just make sure there's nothing else in there. Is my tin and my cup from the soup can. Let's start with this. So in here we've got a cork with some fishing wire, fishing line, a couple of weights and a couple of hooks, all parcelled up, ready to go. All I need to do is take it out the bag, unravel it, chuck it in the water, and with some kind of bait, if I can find grub or whatever, and I'm good to go. We've got a pair of tights wrapped up quite tightly, good for filtering water, creating a bandage or pressuring another bandage. I've got some olive coloured cord with a couple of needles jabbed into a little cork for making basic repairs to clothing. In here I've got a laser pen with spare batteries packed in with some cotton wool just to stop it rattling around too much, which I can use for signalling. In here I've got 3 miniature glow sticks which can be used in conjunction with the fishing kit for night fishing, or just as a backup to these, or as a marker for signalling or whatever. In the very bottom I've got a tallow candle which burns for a long time very cleanly, and as an absolute last resort you can actually eat the tallow itself. And of course it comes in a nice useful tin which could be used for making more charcloth. I've got this little parabolic mirror, also could be a personal hygiene mirror, or used for getting something out of your eye. It was given to me at the 250 prepper meet by Pence. Lovely little idea, he was just handing them out to people, so go check out his channel as well. And we've got this tiny little tin here in which I keep a couple of extra corks, some floss which can be used for a multitude of things, including stitching yourself up if necessary, and some extra hooks and weights, and I've just used the inside of a party popper to stop everything rattling around really, but I suppose I could use it as tinder if necessary. So it's a very compact little way of storing small items, which I think this was originally some kind of lip balm or something, I can't remember where I got it from. So finally then, this little tin, in here we've got some zip ties, multitude of uses. One rubber johnny, which of course can be used for again sucking chest wound, holding water, number of other uses, keeping things dry if necessary. We've got a couple of blades, a wire saw, a hook for hanging up the bag out of the elements or out of the way of wildlife. Many other uses of course for a hook. A safety pin, another miniature little sort of Swiss Army style knife, but really I keep it in there for the use of the scissors, because it's one thing that I find particularly useful over and above just having a basic knife. In here we've got some wire that can be used to make snares, and finally at the bottom there we've got some cotton wool pads soaked in Vaseline. So that's it really. As you can probably guess, there's plenty packed. Right, sorry about that guys, I ran out of battery. But that was it, I'd reached the end there. We were finished off with the cotton wool and Vaseline in the bottom of there, just as an extra means of fire. I'll lay it all out now, and you can see just how much fits into that small pack. I've also weighed it, and it comes to 2.9 kilos, so I think I've managed to fit quite a lot in, quite a lot of capability and quite a lot of redundancy for under 3 kilos, so I'm pretty happy with it at the moment. As I said, I've got a few things that I want to upgrade or swap out. I need some better cordage, and I'd like a better knife, but generally I'm pretty happy. If you've got any suggestions, comments or questions, please let me know in the comments section below, and if you like what you see, feel free to subscribe and check out my other videos. So here it is guys, everything laid out. That's the exact contents that I've just been through, and as you can see, quite a lot that fits into what is essentially quite a small bag.